Hello everyone, my name is Meg, and I'm going to be speaking to you today about Sketchnotes as a teacher, a learner, and a thinker. Before we start, I just want to say thank you very much to everyone for being here today and for taking the time to listen to me speak about this. And a huge heartfelt thank you to Ashton from Sketchnote School for hosting this amazing event and also for reaching out to me to present for it. It really is a huge honor and not something I could have anticipated at all when I began my Sketchnote journey at the beginning of 2024. So thank you, Ashton, for this opportunity, and thank you, everyone who is watching today. Right, let's get started. Um, so my name is Meg. I am South African and a mom to two little girls. I am a global citizen and international teacher. I call myself a global citizen because I have been a bit of a nomad for the last 13 years, just moving around and teaching in different international schools. I've had my children in one country and then moved to another country and so on. And we have finally settled down in a teeny tiny rural area at the bottom of the South Island in New Zealand, where I teach at a country primary school. So that is kind of my teaching journey. I have been running my business Scoodles Illustration since January of 2024. For a long time, I've been using sketchnoting in teaching, but I didn't start sharing it really with others until the beginning of this year. And since January, I've been putting in a lot of time and effort and practice into my sketchnoting, and it's really come a long way. And it's been amazing to have seen the progress in the last year. Right, so these are a few examples of my sketch notes and where they've kind of progressed over the last year. I started out in January. This was my first one that I did, and whilst listening to a TED talk. And they've kind of progressed to these two that you can see over here. And when I started, I just wanted to learn the skills of drawing while listening. And it's really amazing because it takes a lot of brain power to be able to do it. And I really found a huge difference in my thinking skills once I started practicing this more regularly. Like I was able to kind of connect to images and visuals as I was listening much faster than before I'd put the time and effort into it. And yeah, so when I started out, I kind of just reached out to a few educational consultants who I knew from my teaching journey and asked if I could do sketch notes for their workshops. Because I don't know about you, but whenever I've attended any kind of workshop or professional development, that has been really amazing, impactful learning. And I'm given that stack of notes at the end of the day. I don't look at them ever again. I put them in a drawer in my desk, close the drawer, and forget all about it. So I figured it was a kind of unique business model to reach out to these consultants and say, you're doing all of this amazing work. Let me take the notes for you, and people can take them home afterwards and, stick them up behind their desks or like keep them in their professional development folders as like a summary. And so that's kind of where I've progressed to. This one over here in September was done for a consultant friend of mine on cooperative learning. And you can see like the clear progression in terms of my sketchnoting ability, which is it's cool for me to see as well. I like it. And then this one more recently, like I've started doing work for outside agencies. Like this is for Save the Children, and the Youth Climate Collective for a sketch note for them to take with them when they go to a UN conference, or which they went to in November of last year. So it was really amazing to just see how far you can go when you put in the time and you put in the practice and you reach out to people to make those connections. Yeah, so that's a little bit of my background with sketchnoting so far this year. Right, so sketchnoting for teachers. Um, I, as a teacher, have been using sketchnotes in my classroom for a long time. Um, I use them in whole class lessons and also just when I've got like small groups on the carpet and we're sitting down discussing a topic and, trying to make sure that everyone is on the same page and everyone understands something. So sketch notes in the classroom are really, really helpful. They can help everyone, students and you, to be able to visualize concepts, to be able to actually see problems, see pieces, and see how they all fit together. It's really, really helpful because for a lot of people, it's difficult to connect the dots and to be able to put everything that you're learning all together in the same picture. A lot of what I find with a lot of students certainly is that like they learn things in separate entities and struggle to put it all together. So sketchnoting is a really great way to help everyone to see how things join together to make a bigger picture. Sketchnotes also increase engagement. They children are excited to see information presented as pictures. They're excited to see their teacher drawing pictures of things that they know about. They're also excited because they're interested in what you're putting up there. I've also found with a lot of students who struggle with kind of like processing or reading or anything like that, it helps to put it all down on one page and make it visual for them so that it removes that barrier. Um, it also increases memory and retention by having things like sketch notes up in your classroom. It means that students associate those pictures and visual notes with things that they have learned, which means that they're able to recall it easier. They can use it when it's stuck up in the class. They can use it whenever they need to and be constantly referring to it. And especially if they were part of the sketch note being created, they will attach those memories to when they look at these posters and notes. Sketch notes are great because they can also be used as anchors to attach new meanings to. So, like a sketch note might start off as just explaining one simple concept, but you can always add to it and branch out and attach new meanings to the things that you're learning. You can build it up. We created a giant sketch note on states of matter, which everyone kind of added to. And it just ended up being this whole huge visual resource for the whole class to be able to use and to take from it what they wanted to. Sketchnotes are also great because they are a way that you can break through learning barriers and you can help students to feel successful in the classroom, whether they're learning from a sketchnote or learning by sketchnoting. It's a way to kind of support different learning styles and help everyone to feel successful. You can use sketchnotes as a way to teach and introduce new content. You can use them in your anchor charts. You can use them while you're explaining. They can be put on whiteboards and rubbed out, or they can be put on posters for more permanent use. It's totally up to you, the way that you would like it to be done. I personally do most of my sketch notes on an iPad, which I share with a screen with my class. But when we're doing ones while we're learning, while we're discussing, those are often done on posters, which we use to stick up afterwards so that students can use it as a resource for their learning. A really important part of this is that I want you to know that you do not have to be an artist to be able to sketchnote or to teach sketchnoting. You do not. It's just a bunch of lines and simple icons that we can attach meaning to. It does not have to be anything fancy. Okay. Right, so getting started, if you wanted to be doing sketch notes in your classroom, the way that I've done it, in teaching it is first you introduce the topic. So, for example, if you were doing a sketch note on the history of the Olympics, that would be your topic. Then next we brainstorm icons. So that means that you talk about like what kind of icons could you include in the Olympics? Like what sort of pictures, what sort of images do you think you'll see? And you'll find that the students are actually they're amazing at coming up with different ideas and things that could go into their sketch notes. And just by talking about it and getting it out, and also by you like adding little doodles of things as well as they talk, that is how we can kind of like get into sketchnote mode, is what I call it. After you've done some brainstorming, you can give students time to doodle out some icons in their books or on scrap paper or something to kind of get in the groove and think about things that they might be using while they are sketchnoting about this topic, just so that they feel confident in getting started. Sometimes we even pre like prepare the page that we're going to use. So we'll do like a banner heading on the Olympics or and have like a few icons when we say, okay, so what are some things that might be mentioned here? Maybe they'll mention dates. What can we use to show a date? And a lot of the children will be like, oh, a calendar. Let's draw a calendar. And then we can add that date into the calendar. So by getting them set up to be successful, they are going to look back at the sketch note and feel really proud of it. So that's something that I found really helpful for them. And then what we do next is then we'll play a video. And instead of expecting them to be able to sketchnote the whole thing as they watch, I will stop it regularly and say, okay, what is something important that you could pull out of this information you've just heard? What icon could we use to show that information on our sketchnote? And by doing this, it really helps them to feel confident, to feel successful, and to kind of build that those skills that they will need to be able to be sketchnoters. I also find that it helps if I draw with them and I model the process aloud. So I talk about it and I think aloud and say, oh, okay, I wonder, I'm going to draw this because he mentioned that this guy was as fast as lightning. I'm going to draw a little lightning bolt. And things like this, like show how you are thinking and model it to your students, and they will follow. Right, we've got a quick brain break. I don't know how much of a break it is actually, but I've got some information for you over here that I would like you to read. So I'm going to give you 30 seconds or so to read it and to try and remember what you are reading. Okay. Okay. Now, how much of that could you remember? Try write it down. So write it down on a piece of paper or say it to yourself. Try to write down the facts and the information that you just learned by reading that short piece of text. Okay. How about now? So this is that same information but presented as a sketch note. I want you to have a look at it the same way that you just read that last piece of information, and then I'm going to ask you to do the same thing afterwards. All right, so look at the pictures, look at the statistics that we've got over there and the information, and then see how much more of it sticks. Okay, so how much of that could you remember? So now I'd like you to try and write it down or draw it as a sketch note if you want and see how much more of that you can recall just from looking at the pictures instead of the text. Okay. Um, right, so that's a really interesting fact is that the brain processes visual information 60,000 times faster than text. Um, so this is just something to think about. Like all of us are visual people. Um, Visuals stick so much better than text. You'd far rather look at a picture than a piece of writing. And you take in different things from a picture than you would from a piece of writing as well. Um, so I'm interested to know how it went for you, if you found that certain things stuck for you, and what kind of information you can remember. Like, do any of you remember the text written out in your brain, like when you try to look at it and refer back to it? Or do you remember the drawing of the brain and the statistics, like the 90% and the 50% surface area? Do you remember the drawing of the eye and the drawing of the lightning bolt? What did the lightning bolt represent? So, when you recall information in your mind, if you see it as a picture, you are far more likely to recall it and remember it than if it is just a piece of text. All right, so that's just something interesting for you to have a think about the impact that sketch notes can have as a teacher and a learner and a thinker, all of these things. Right, so sketch notes for learners, these are things that I've really noticed in my class when I use them, and the impact that it's had on the students in my class as learners. So, when they record their learning and their thinking, um, students become more engaged listeners because they are having to listen and think and draw all at the same time. It's what is called kind of like dual coding because it's not just listening and thinking. It's listening, thinking, synthesizing, and then drawing or writing. So they are much more active listeners whilst using sketchnoting. They're able to retain information better, as you would have seen in our last experiment there. And the brain is really active as they are drawing their sketch notes because they're filtering the information, which they find important. And they're also at the same time attaching that information to icons. And in doing so, there's this whole process that is happening in the brain that's really making sure that that information is getting in and is staying in. They can remember things easier and they can visualize processes and make connections with their life and with their learning because they can see it. When things are laid out in a visual format, they can actually see the problems, they can see how things are linked. And like I've heard so many aha moments of students who really, for the first time, have understood something just because they've seen it in a picture rather than in a body of text or rather than listening to a lesson. Sketch notes can really help students by them being able to make connections with their learning, seeing ways to solve their problems, and allowing them to show their learning in a way that is interesting and creative and fun. School doesn't just have to be about writing 1,000 word essays and making posters and doing assessments and taking exams. They can show their learning in a way that is still creative and reflects them for who they are as a learner. It also really empowers them to take ownership of their learning and their thinking and be able to present what they know in their own style. Right, so this is an example of I just want to give you some information before you watch it. Kind of like modeled as conversations that I have with students as they are working through something and learning something. So it's kind of a teacher voice, but also a student voice mixed in here. And I hope that you find it interesting. I've heard from my students when they're creating a sketchnote. Let me tell you what I know about states of matter. So I know that there are solids, liquids, and gases. Here are a couple of examples that I know of which we've learned about. By putting them out in this way, I can see a few examples of each one and how they fit into the different categories. This is how I know particle arrangement looks in solids. And these are the particles in liquids, and these are the particles in gases. I know that we can go from solids to liquids to gases, and actually they can go backwards again if I apply some heat or make the temperature a little bit colder. I can see that clearly by adding the arrows in between the different phases. By using arrows and by organizing my information in this way, I can see connections very clearly and how things impact each other and have an effect on the different states of matter. By laying out my information this way, I'm organizing it to make recall and formal writing a little bit easier for myself. And I'm also seeing it in such a way that I can compare information easily. I can add little icons all around my words to be able to attach meanings to. And I can add extra little bits of information wherever I have extra space on my sketchnote, as and when I learn them. I'm now going to add a little bit of color to my sketchnote. Color really helps me to organize my sketchnote even further, because when things are color coded or separated by colors, I can recall the information much easier by actually picturing it and picturing the page in my mind when I'm trying to think of what I want to answer or write about. So adding the color is not just to make it look nice, but it's also really to be able to organize my information even further. Right, so I hope that you found that interesting, seeing kind of how sketchnotes can evolve with teaching as with teachers and with learners. Right, so these are some examples of sketchnotes that students have done in my classroom. You can definitely tell like they love the creative and artistic element of it. You can see the amount of effort that they've put in, and it's not just a bunch of pictures. It's the meaning that they have attached to all of those pictures and the way that they see it. Like, it really is just brilliant the way that you can see how information is interpreted by different children and kind of what they take out of their learning. It's also really clear that despite different learning abilities, everyone's able to show their information like this, and they can put down the information that they know and they remember and they recall according to what they are capable of producing. And so it's a really good way to kind of really see what your kids know, if you're teaching and assessing, and as a way to kind of like really get it. Right, here's some more over here. You can see States of Matter was a big unit that we did for most of a term, and it was really brilliant because we got a lot of great sketchnoting out of there. Right, so this is just to kind of like sum up what we've been talking about here, and um, so why you should be using sketchnotes as a teacher or as a learner and a thinker is that it engages multiple parts of your brain. It helps you to actively organize and process information. It is visual, it's kinesthetic, it's semantic. It's taking all these different processes that are important with understanding and remembering information and putting it all into one action. Twice more likely to remember it if you're using sketchnotes. If you want to get started or you want to get started in your class as a teacher, this is how you can do it. Just practice doodling while you're listening to songs or YouTube clips. I find TED Talks really helpful, but those are a bit longer. Like those are often like 15, 20 minutes plus. You can do short clips. When I'm doing it in my class, I don't really show anything longer than 5 minutes because we stop it so regularly. Then develop an icon library. which is kind of a set of visuals to match keywords. A cool way to do this is to like spend some time with sketchnoting and make sketchnoting a part of every day. Like a resource that I'll share with you at the end of this is kind of like an ABC of icons. And it's kind of just like learning to add icons to your icon library and alphabetize them so that when you're trying to think of something you can use, you can go, oh, let me check my icon ABC, and you can go back and have a look at it. And it's a cool way to practice something every day and get the kids building their own resources. Keep it low stress. Your drawings do not have to be perfect, and like reiterate that a lot in your class and celebrate everyone participating, not only the artists. In fact, it doesn't need to be about art at all. And so just celebrate all the sketch notes, even if they're just scribbles, because it's not about the quality of drawing to be able to create a thing that shows how much you've learned and understood. Don't assess the sketch notes to start off with. Like it's use it to start discussions, to make goals, and to like use it as a working document and a working way to talk about kids and their learning. It shouldn't be something that you are assessing the quality of yet. It should be something that's fun and relaxing and that doesn't have the pressure added to it. And then join in and have fun, draw with them, show them that you're learning too. Show how you draw something and then say, oh, actually, I can think of something better, and scribble it out and draw another one. Like celebrate the mistakes and be a part of the process with them. Right, so that's all from me today. Thank you so much for listening and watching, hearing about my journey, and for being a part of my sketchnote journey, because this is my first time presenting, and it feels really great to be able to talk about sketchnoting to others that are so passionate about it. I hope that you learned a lot from it. I hope that you got something out of it. And if you ever want to reach out and connect, please get in touch with me. I'd love to hear from you. And yeah, happy World Sketchnoting Day, and wishing you all the very, very best for 2025. Okay, bye.